Hey, welcome back to Stock Talk with Eric Anthony. Happy Monday and happy Valentine's Day. The market's about to wrap up, so I just thought I'd give you a quick video on some things that stuck out to me. In particular, a new hire with BNGO, some inflation outlook news. We'll discuss people that come out of the woodworks, and we'll discuss some world news. Okay, well, let's get right into it. Starting out here with BNGO, as you can see. Bionano Genomics appoints Helene Klein as its first ever Chief People Officer, also known as CPO. They appointed her to be responsible for leading human resources, employer branding, and Bionano's diversity, equity, and inclusion program. She used to work with The Body Shop, where she led the people function for 14 years. During her time there as CPO, the Beachbody employee population scaled from 150 employees to over 1,100 in 3 countries. Revenue grew from $150 million to over $1 billion annually, and the company went public on the New York Stock Exchange. Prior to Beachbody, Ms. Klein held senior leadership roles in human resources in multiple global companies and industries, including healthcare, retail, and consumer products. She will also be responsible for all aspects of Bionano's employee experience, including attracting, engaging, and retaining talent to support Bionano's continued growth. Ms. Klein was formerly the Chief People Officer at the Beachbody Company. Okay, so another thing I wanted to touch on really quick today is stock ticker ALPP. One of my favorites as well. I've talked about this in the past, but today it went up about 23% at the time of this recording. And I think a lot of it may have to do with some institutional buying that we've become made more aware of, specifically with Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Vanguard. It's believed that institutions own about 20% of the float currently. So just something to keep in mind. I'll be looking more into it as the night goes on. Okay, as you can see here with regard to the genomics sector, a lot of it's down, excluding Beam and 23andMe. Even with BNGO, it was going as down as much as 6%, 6% in that range throughout the day. Another thing I had noticed with not only genomics, but just kind of my favorite stocks was really low volume. And I wonder if that has to do with the closed door meeting that the Feds had today, which was an emergency meeting. I hope to be able to look into a little bit more regarding the talks from there, and I will report on that tomorrow. Kind of piggybacking off of to why some of the price action was so negative with BNGO today is that I think a lot of people are trying to wrap their brain around this new position and how it could adversely affect the company from a spending standpoint. Like, is the company using that money to reinvest in themselves, or are they just using retail money to go buy new people and allocate different shares out, which, you know, in the short term can hurt long-term investors. One thing that jumped out to me is as this news broke out and as I started seeing some chatter online, you start to notice that people come out of the woodworks with a lot of hate if something doesn't go the way they want it to go. So again, I hope with this page to not only bring you market behavior, some news, market activity, but more the psychology of some of my decision making. When I see these things, as you can see here with this dude, he's saying spending investors' money on social justice pandering is absolutely awful and exploitive. Not just ironic that retail investors, the people who saved this company, get the shaft here. It looks awfully criminal. And this dude had a whole thread of just why this new hire was so bad. And as along myself, I was like, I don't really know about that play, but as I read earlier, she does bring a lot to the table. So maybe let's just kind of sit back and realize that they have a plan. I would assume they have a plan. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing that they've been hiring. So, you know, if a hire happens and it doesn't go the way you expect it to go, sometimes it's probably best to just kind of keep those thoughts to yourself, because when you start seeing this type of FUD, or you start seeing people just throw out all this defamatory information regarding a company, it can hurt the stock. And as you can see today, some of the activity, especially when we have low volume, it can really just bring the price up and down. Personally, good day to buy. Okay, well, long story short, when a company announces something that maybe throws off us as investors, let's just try to keep in mind what their goal is, keep in mind who they hired, and let's try to kind of block out some of the noise from people that are not even part of your community and overnight create an account and just start bashing the company, okay? Okay, so I wanted to jump into some of this inflation news that I had, or the inflation outlook news that I was reading today per Bloomberg. As you can see here, U.S. inflation outlook falls for the first time since October 2020. Can you say bullish? I don't know. U.S. consumers don't expect red-hot inflation levels to last in the long term. That's the takeaway from the January consumer survey from Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which showed that the median 1 year ahead inflation expectations fell for the first time since October 2020 to 5.8%. The outlook over 3 years dropped even more sharply, and the decline was broad-based across age, education, and income. The results suggest that while consumers are highly attuned to current inflation news in updating their short-term inflation expectations, they are taking less signal than before the pandemic from the recent sharp movements in realized inflation when revisiting their 3-year ahead expectations. Okay, piggybacking off of that, as you can see here, look at the price gain stall regarding rent, medical care, food, college education, which actually looks like it's declining, gas, and gold. College education might be on a decline just because of the nature of the pandemic and how so many students probably stopped going to school altogether on a quarter or semester basis. Not that they're saying that there's a lack of enrollment, but I also know that student debt has also been frozen for a while too, so maybe that has a little bit to play into that. But anyway, I just want to bring this chart to your attention so you can kind of see how the inflation outlook has changed. And one thing to keep in mind with this market is, look, from Friday to now, look how different the scope of things have changed in just a matter of 72 hours. So that's something to keep in mind as a long-term investor, that there's always going to be chatter out there. But again, we just kind of want to block that out and keep in mind that as long as your companies are doing what you plan on them to do, you should be just fine. Just want to look at our favorite stocks. Let's look at Mount Fang. Nothing really going on there today, kind of hovering around, around 1 to 2% with our favorites here. Nothing too crazy. Jumping over into our fintech, as you can see, Affirm hit about 5%, SoFi down 2.6%, PayPal down, and Robinhood was actually up a little bit today. In regard to Palantir, up 2.2%. There is a shareholder letter that came out today. I'll be reading through that, and I will be discussing that into more detail regarding what Alex Karp, the CEO, had to say. And as you can see here, NNDM is also up. NNDM took a little bit of a wild ride today. A lot of price action, all for it to kind of just remain stagnant. Again, today was a very low volume day in comparison to where we're usually trading for some of our favorite companies. Okay, so regarding some world news, as you can see here, China has approved for the Pfizer pill and will hopefully open the door to ending their COVID-0 policy. This is a surprise decision to clear this pill because it offers a rare insight into how Beijing may be planning to move beyond the COVID-0 strategy that's leaving it increasingly isolated. So like with this news regarding China, as you all know, we are a global economy at the end of the day. So to hear that China is going to kind of go away from the COVID-0 stance and accept different type of therapeutics to try to combat it, or are they going to just move forward with it? Okay, so like another thing, now that we've discussed China regarding some world news, let's also kind of piggyback off of that and discuss the possible war with Russia and Ukraine. I'm sure by now everyone has heard about it, everyone's talking about it, fine. But I would like to bring up this quote from The Art of War. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Me personally, obviously I'm not a world leader, and I don't lead an army by anything. Most that I've maybe done is played COD or maybe some Clash of Titans. Either way though, if it were me and I were planning to do something, I don't think I would tell someone. Personally, I've played a lot of sports in my life. I've played every sport you can think of. I played a lot of football, a lot of basketball, a lot of just anything. And all I know is at the end of the day, we definitely weren't giving our playbook to the opponent for Friday night. You know what I mean? So if you hear that Russia's going to plan to attack Ukraine on, the 16th at 2 p.m., okay, that's kind of weird. Again, to me, it's just kind of weird for us to just believe that Russia's just going to give out their playbook. You know what I mean? So just kind of keep that in mind. Take that in perspective as we kind of try to block out noise and as we try to use that information to see how it's going to affect the market behavior. Because you might get reports later on today that they're trying to pull back Ukrainian politicians, and then 20 minutes later they're telling you that war is going to happen on the 16th. Which one is it? You know what I mean? I think the best thing that we can do as long-term investors, just pay attention to your stocks, pay attention to your companies, and whatever you think is pertinent to how you're going to invest as a long-term investor. Kind of sums it up today on some things that caught my attention regarding the new hire at BNGO, China's approval of the Pfizer pill, Russia letting everyone know that they're going to attack on February 16th, and some of the FUD that can come out when things don't go the way some of us investors want them to go. And again, remember, if someone's putting a hit piece out on your company and they can drop this 5, 6, 7, tweet thread regarding one bad decision, how long has that thread been written up and ready in their arsenal? Do you really think that this hire came out of the blue and they just knocked that out, boom, boom, boom? Or do you think that they've been kind of waiting for this and they can just insert the hire and then go off on their tangent? You know what I mean? So that's just something that I keep in mind. Again, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this page in regard to how I give information. I do want to be able to give you guys day-to-day information regarding market behavior, but I think more importantly, I just want to be able to provide you an inside look on how I view some of the things that I bring to the page. Because like I've been saying, and I've said it over and over again, I feel like once you get to know the investor, you get a better idea of how and why they move in the market. And I think as we can find people that are similar to us, it can be a little bit easier to try to rationalize and maybe take into perspective how others in our same positions might move and how we might react as a community, rather than trying to do everything solo dolo, right? Again, when days like these, we've had the fear of war over the past weekend. We'll probably have it for the next few weeks. It is what it is. I'm not saying war is great. I'm not saying war is bad. I'm not saying anything. That's for your guys' own opinion. But I think in regard to our market behavior, we want to keep that in mind. And another thing I want to touch on is something that was brought to my attention regarding crypto. JP Morgan has an outlook that crypto will be 100, or Bitcoin specifically will be 150,000 per coin. We know that BlackRock has just got into crypto. We know that Wells Fargo is still says it's a great time to look into crypto and buy. And we also know, as you can see here, that Binance, the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange, is making a strategic $200 million investment in Forbes, the 104-year-old media outlet. Binance will replace half of the institutional investment that had previously been committed, and the exchange will become one of the top 2 largest owners of Forbes. And like I was just telling you right now, BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is focused on offering a cryptocurrency trading service to its clients, according to insiders. So there you have it. That's kind of my roundup for today in the market. I hope everyone's Valentine's goes well. But more importantly, I hope that this was able to give you a little bit of insight on how I was able to interpret some of the news that we see. And I do think that as time goes forward, we should see a little more favorable price action as long as economies keep opening up, supply issues get handled, and more importantly, the threat of war starts to subside. But okay, again, I'm trying to make these a little bit quicker, so bear with me as maybe I'm talking a little bit faster. I hope that at the end of the day that this kind of just gives you a quick update on the market and ultimately the psychology of a long-term investor. All right, well, like always, thank you so much for joining Stock Talk with Eric Anthony, and I'll see you mañana.